Okay, Assalamualaikum and good morning. We start our class with Al-Fatihah, ya. Okay, so today we will go into another topic. Alright, so we only have this week and next week, right? There's actually, based on the course outline, there are two more chapters, which is today, but the lecture today is quite long, okay, when we're talking about theories of media and society. So next week we are supposed to talk about media and culture theories, okay. So if just say that we can't finish this lecture today, all right, I might not cover the topic next week, okay. So I'm just prompting you, but you don't have to worry because the topic that we will discuss next week would not be in the exam, and also it's just really discussing examples of the different types of theories. But in general, we have already covered all the main characteristics or categories of theories, okay? As long as we've covered all those four: normative, post-positivist, critical cultural, okay, then we have basically covered, all right, on the surface lah, okay, the general idea of communication theory. So for today's class, okay, also as well as last week's class, is really about, okay, going through different theories, okay. All right, now let's go to this topic today. Okay. Okay, the effects of media on society. Can you see? Okay, is the slides already clear? Here, the effect of media.
Yes, madam.
Okay, very good. All right. So like I've mentioned just now, okay, today I'm just going through the different examples of theories that talk about the influence of media on society. Some of these theories are critical cultural, some of them are functional, okay. So it's not really about you being able to categorize, oh, this is functional, this is critical cultural. It's really about you being able to understand how each theory, okay, tries to explain a particular relationship, okay. So here, so we start with, okay, of course here there's so many learning objectives, okay, you can read them on your own. We start with the theory of agenda setting. Okay, the influence of media on society here, effects of media on society. And when we talk about the theory of agenda setting, it's really talking about the political and social effect of the media. I'm sure, okay, most of you have heard of this theory, agenda setting. Okay, this is probably one of the most popular theory in media studies, okay, in communication studies. Okay, so what does this theory say? Okay, this theory generally, as the name suggests, it tells us that the media sets the public's agenda, the people's agenda. All right. Now, so you look at all these photos here. Okay. So who do we have here? Who is this? Ahmad. Which Ahmad? Okay, do you know this?
Former Prime Minister, Mr.
Yes.
Najib.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Najib. Okay. So this is, for example, is Najib Razak. Okay, he was the most, at one time, okay, the most controversial lah Prime Minister in Malaysia. Okay. And then of course you have here Ahmad's best friend. Okay. So look at him. How come his hair is not orange here? Alright. Okay. So you have here Mr. Donald Trump. Okay. Anyone here do not know who he is? Okay, I think everybody in the world would know who he is. Whether you like him or not, he's probably the most popular American president. Okay, now, okay, of course, okay, what about here? You know what image is this? Okay, this is the riot in Hong Kong last year. Okay, last year, okay, one of the main issues, okay, that the world was talking about or the media was highlighting was about the Hong Kong riot. Okay, now what are all these images about? Okay, what is it telling us? Okay, for example here, Frozen. Okay, what is the relationship between Elsa and Trump and Najib? Okay, here it tells us, okay, that why is it, okay, that most of us all around the world, we know about the same issues. Okay, why is it in Malaysia people are talking about Najib? Okay, and when we talk about Najib, we're talking about the same thing. We relate him with corruption, for example. We relate him with the issues of 1MDB. Okay, supposedly the biggest corruption case in the world, right? Or when we talk about Trump, okay, why do we have the same perception of Trump? Okay, so here it tells us, okay, that it is all because the media gives the attention to these people. Because if you were to think about it, there are so many corruption cases in the world. There are so many political leaders, all right? But we don't know about these political leaders. How come we only know, okay, the name of Trump? Okay, if I were to ask you, okay, who is the what we call it, the president of Egypt? I cannot ask Ahmad. So if I ask Dayang, for example, who's the Egyptian president? Do you know?
No, madam. I'm sorry.
No, right? Yes.
No.
Okay. Who is he, Ahmad? Who's your president?
We do not have a president. Okay, no. Currently, he's the what's his name, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. But yeah, we do not consider him the legitimate president. Just saying.
Okay, you don't consider him the legitimate president. Okay. So some people agree, some people don't agree, but my point is that most people, okay, generally do not know who is the Egyptian president, whether legitimate or not legitimate. But we all know who's the American president, okay? We all know him. Why? Because in our media, in Malaysia or in Indonesia maybe, or in China or Vietnam, we don't see Sisi in our media. He is not covered. But Trump, we see him every day. So here the agenda setting theory tells us it is the media that informs us about who to think about or what to think about. Can you understand? All right. Here, last year, okay, are you all aware of the what we call it, the Hong Kong riot? Okay. It's so hard talking to only icons. I only see icons here, yeah? All right, so you are probably aware of the Hong Kong riot last year. Why? Because almost every day you would read it in the newspaper. You would read about it, okay? But when they were talking about the Hong Kong riot, there were many other political issues or riots around the world that was not covered. That means when the media are talking about Hong Kong, they were not talking about Egypt, for example. They're not talking about Yemen. They're not talking about Palestine. There are many other issues in the world that they don't talk about. Instead, they focus on specific or certain issues. Okay, so this is why, okay, what happens next is that when audiences or the public are given attention to only certain issues, we ourselves do not know what is happening around us. We only know what the media tells us. This is the idea of agenda setting. Okay? So this theory was developed by Maxwell McCombs and Donald Shaw, okay, in 1972. Okay, probably the year your parents were born, okay? As a result of their study of North Carolina voters during the 1968 presidential election campaign. Okay, now this theory is often used to study politics and election. Okay, so that's why we call it a political communication theory. But okay, this theory is not specific to politics because it can also be used, okay, to understand how media set agenda even if it has nothing to do with politics. Okay, like here, when we talk about Disney's Frozen, okay, why is it when there is a movie, okay, Disney's movie coming out, everybody knows about it? Okay, because the media gives a lot of attention to that particular movie. Hollywood, okay, or animation films, there are hundreds of films that comes out every year, but we only know about a selected few. Okay, the ones that we know about are those that being covered by the media. Okay, so even that, okay, Disney have been able to set the agenda of the movie or movie audiences. Isn't it? Marvel sets our agenda. Okay, they tell us next year what kind of movie will come out. Black Widow will come out. Okay, so we have set our agenda that next year I'm going to watch these movies. Okay, so when we set the agenda to look at those movies, okay, we don't consider other movies, okay, that could be even better. Okay. So here they say, okay, based on their study, they found a relationship, correlation. Correlation means a positive relationship, okay, between issues that voters believed were important and issues that the media gave prominence to. Okay, so here, okay, you imagine an election. All right, your country has an election. So the media plays an important role. In what sense? Because according to this theory, okay, according to their study, okay, in elections, what do we think about before we go out and vote? Okay, generally most people, we don't know what to think about. Okay, so it is the media tells us, oh, okay, in Malaysia, for example, during the general election, okay, previous general election, what do we think about? Or they say, oh, corruption, 1MDB. Okay, so this is what everybody is thinking about. Okay, they don't consider other issues because other issues were not being discussed by the media. Okay. So basically the media tells us what is important. The media tells us about what to think about, okay? So the media uses a number of cues to indicate the importance of an issue. Okay, on the front page of a newspaper, for example, the importance of a story is indicated by the size of its heading. Okay, so how do we know certain thing is important? Okay, how do you know someone is important? If someone makes it into the newspaper and he becomes the front page and the headline, we automatically think that that person is important, isn't it? All right. So the same thing, right? Okay, if you make it into the newspaper, you will cut the newspaper and you will frame it on your wall. Why? Because it gives you prominence. Okay. So here, the media, okay, can you imagine, okay, there are so many issues that are going up around the world, okay, there are many political, there are many economic issues that's going on, but why do we only think about a selected few? We only think about those that are in the covers of the newspapers, those that make it into the prime time news. Can you understand? Okay. So media has the power to focus public discussion on particular issues. Okay, it cannot tell us what to think, but it can tell us what to think about. Okay, so here what does it mean? It means that the media can focus our attention. Okay, Ahmad, okay, Dayang, okay, Hassan, today in the newspaper, it will talk about Donald Trump. So your focus will be on Donald Trump. And when you're reading about Donald Trump, you would put inside your head, oh, this guy is important. But it doesn't mean that you're going to like or hate him, but you know this guy is important. Okay? So, at the same time, when you are focused on Trump, you don't get to read about or focus on other, what we call it, politicians or other leaders. Hardly our newspapers will talk about the German president or the, what we call it, the Norwegian president. Okay, because these are the people that hardly gets global attention. Okay. So here is the theory says, okay, the agenda setting tells us, okay, that media don't tell people what to think, but what to think about. Can you understand this term? Okay, what to think and what to think about. Okay, here, okay, the media, according to this theory, can influence us in two levels. Okay, first level, how to think about it. Okay, so most researchers, they use this, okay, media uses objects or issues to influence the people, okay, on what they should think about. Okay, today, all right, if I were to ask you, okay, who should I ask? Okay, Nur Aina Shakira, for example, what do you think is the most important news that is going on around the world today? What's important? What's going on around the world? Hello? Okay, how about other people? What do you think? Okay, COVID-19. Obviously, COVID-19. All right, about COVID, yes. Okay, all around the world, because this is what the media is telling us every day. Okay, so when the media talks about COVID-19 every single day, okay, it gives us the impression that this is the most important issue in the world. Okay, Okay, Trump wants out from who? Okay, all right. So, and then when they cover about COVID-19, probably they talk about Trump, they talk about US because they have the highest, okay, COVID-19 cases. But point is, okay, the media, when they give a lot of attention on COVID-19, okay, then we think we have made our focus to also talk about COVID-19. All right, but unfortunately, okay, the issue with agenda setting is when the media tells us how to think, okay, they tell us this is what we think about, we tend to not think about other things. Okay, so this gives power to the media, all right, to highlight issues that is relevant to them or relevant to the status quo or relevant to the whoever that is controlling the media. Can you understand? All right. So in Malaysia, for example, okay, traditionally our media is government control. Okay. So when the government has control over the media, the government can set the media's agenda because the government can tell these newspapers, okay, you only focus on issues of COVID-19. Do not focus on issues of government corruption. Can you understand? Okay, so when the media only focuses on these issues of the pandemic, then it will divert people's attention to these issues. Okay. Okay, now you talk about, okay, Trump wants to go out of World Health Organizations. Okay, who? Okay, that's one of the news that's very, very popular today. Okay, so when people talk about Trump, people talk about WHO, all right, then people tend to focus on that issue and not focus on other issues. Okay, and those issues may not be even relevant to us. Okay, for example, in Malaysia, if our newspapers focus so much on Trump and his desire to go out of World Health Organization, what has it got to do with us? Can you understand? Okay, it does not directly or significantly impact us. But because the media talks about it a lot, we tend to think, oh, this is important. We need to know about what Trump is doing. Can you follow? All right. Okay, understand or not? Okay, so in the first level, okay, the media tells us, okay, how to think. Okay, where is it? Okay, they just tells us, okay, what to think about. Okay, there are thousands and millions of things that are going on in the world, but why all of us focus only on the same thing? Because that's what the media tell us. Don't focus on Yemen. Don't focus on human rights issues. Focus on the pandemic. Okay. And not only do they tell us how to think, okay, they can also tell us what to think about. Second level, okay. Now, second level media focuses on the characteristics of issues, how people should think about, okay. The way the media designs, the way the media gives prominence to a certain issues can also influence us to think about how to think about a particular issue. Okay, sometimes, okay, the first level is considered, it's called priming. Okay, first level agenda setting is priming. Okay, in agenda setting, the idea that media draws attention to some aspects of political life at the expense of others. Okay, so this is done every day. The particular news is carried as a heading or covered every day for months. Okay, now priming. You know priming? Prime. That means they make it, they give more attention to a particular news. Okay, so in Malaysia, okay, we are a Muslim country. Okay, we are supposed, okay, logically to be covering news about our Muslim, what we call it, neighbors, for example. Okay, we should be covering news more about the Middle East or about Egypt or about our Indonesian neighbors. But instead, when we read the news, okay, we tend to read more about what is happening in the Western countries, okay, in America especially. Okay, why? Because the news that we get are usually, okay, are usually gotten from international news agencies, and because of that, new international news agencies will only cover Western news. Okay, they will only give attention, and as a result, our local newspaper will only give attention to American news. That means we know what's going on in the US, but we don't know about what's going on in Indonesia. We don't know what's going on in Egypt. We don't know what's going on in the Middle East. Why? Because when we switch on the television, when we listen to the radio, they give prime. That means they give privilege or more attention to the news about Western countries and not about Muslim countries. Can you understand? All right. So the same thing, for example, during election, okay, the government can highlight stories about their, what we call it, their success. Okay. So when the newspaper always talk about, oh, the government have been able to do this, to do that, then the people would not question, okay, about the failures of the government, because they have been given all these ideas about how the government is good and very successful. Okay. So this idea of priming, I guess, works in many countries. Okay, even in China, for example, okay, most of the news stories will only focus about the Chinese government. Okay, they will focus on their leaders. They will not focus on the oppositions, for example. Okay, so this is the first level. Okay, so the media tells us, okay, what to think. Okay, we think about Donald Trump, but we don't think about Egypt. We think about the US, but we don't think about Palestine. Why? Because priming. Okay? And after priming, sometimes the media, they work together with other agencies, okay? Because the media is not a standalone. The media is usually owned by a particular organization or is owned by the government, okay? So usually, okay, a certain agenda, okay, they are not set, they are built. Okay, agenda building. That means when a particular news, okay, is also given prominence by the government, okay, or by organizations. For example, just now, okay, when we talk about, okay, during the election, and the government would say, the media would cover about the good aspects of the government. Okay, the government would do the same in their campaign. Okay, organizations that benefit from the government will also support this idea. So in the end, there will be agenda building in the sense that people will agree, okay, that this government is a good government. Why? Because we see it in the media, because organizations are talking about it, because the government campaigns are showing us this. So this is the agenda, all right? Okay, so agenda setting is set by the media. So the media can give us, okay, attention to a particular issue. But, okay, the relationship between the agenda and other institutions can also help build a particular issue. Okay, that means, okay, it gives more prominence, then the agenda becomes more popular. All right? And then framing. Okay, so the second level of agenda setting is framing. You know, put a frame. You know how a frame looks like, right? What do you do a frame? Okay, a frame gives us some kind of a perspectives, but also it somewhat like limit us, okay, to what we want, to what we understand. Okay, so framing suggests, okay, in way in which news content is typically shaped and contextualized within the same frame of reference. Okay, audience adopts the frame of reference and to see the world in a similar way. It is how people attach importance to a news and perceive its context within which an issue is viewed. What does this mean? Okay, here when we talk about priming, okay, it means that the media, okay, focuses on issues. And this tells us, okay, these are the issues to think about. Okay, so they talk about the US, okay, they talk about Trump, okay, then we say, okay, Trump is an important person. Okay, that is priming. Okay, but with framing, okay, they don't just tell us what to think, they tell us about how to think about it. Okay, now do we like or not like Trump? Okay, our perceptions of Trump, okay, is also influenced by the media. Okay, if we've been reading, okay, pro-Trump media, okay, we will like him because the pro-Trump media will focus on his positive sides. Okay. On the other hand, okay, if you're reading a local Malaysian newspapers that usually is not that pro-American, okay, you would be reading about all his silly and negative aspects of Trump. Okay, we read about how Trump tells the people to not wear the mask, or how Trump tells the people to, you know, to drink the sanitizer or something like that. So to us, Trump is a silly man. Okay, how come we have this perception? Because the news that we read tells us that way. Okay, can you see the differences between priming and framing? Priming is giving significance to a particular news. Framing is giving us a context to shape our opinions. Can you follow so far or not? Okay. Here, I give you an example. Okay, so maybe political issues is boring. Okay, we talk about movies. Okay, I give you just now. Okay, the example of Frozen. Okay, Frozen. There are so many Disney cartoons in the world. There are local cartoons. There are a lot of animation movies. But why is it? Okay, that when Frozen came out, everybody wants to watch it. Okay, why do all the girls would like prefer to watch Frozen over other movies? Okay, young girls, I mean. It's because of priming. Okay, it's because Disney has more money for advertisements, so they can pay the television, they can pay radio stations, they can pay newspapers all over the world to promote Frozen. So when of this media, okay, promotes Frozen, they have give attention to this particular movie. Okay, can you understand? So that means it is how Frozen becomes up or high in everybody's agenda. Okay, what movie to watch today? Okay, Frozen. Why? Because you see it everywhere. Okay. Now, but before we go and watch the movie, most of the times we already have some expectations. Okay, some kind of conclusion in saying, okay, this movie is going to be good. I know this movie is going to be better than the last one. Okay, why do we have that feeling when we go and watch a particular movie? Because we've read the reviews. Okay, the newspaper already told us, oh, the second movie is even better than the last one. Okay, it has more action, it has better music, right? So when you go into the cinema, you already have your perception made. Okay, why? Because the media not only tells you to go and watch Frozen, they also tells you, okay, oh, that this movie, this Frozen movie is a good movie and a better movie compared to the other movie. Can you understand? All right, so this is the idea of agenda setting. Okay, is it priming meaning tell us to only focus one issue? Yes, okay, Shafizi asked, okay. Okay, the media, when they set the agenda and when they give us priming, yes, okay, they make us focus on certain issues only. And when we are focused on a particular issue, we tend to forget or compromise other issues. Can you understand? Okay, that's right, Shafizi. So that is why, okay, for us, okay, in Muslim societies, we care more, we know more about what is going on in the Western countries, okay, than what is happening in our Muslim, what we call it, other Muslim countries. Do you know what's going on in Jordan? Do we know what's going on in what we call other Muslim countries? Yemen, okay? We hardly know. Because why? It is not covered in our media. Okay, Palestine. Yeah, Palestine is seasonal in Malaysia. Right? We only talk about it near fasting month. Near Ramadan, Palestine become very important. After Ramadan, we hardly talk about Palestine anymore. We talk about China. We talk about the US. Can you understand? So in relation to that, okay, the negative aspect is that, okay, the media, okay, tells or basically designs, okay, the agenda of the people. They tell us what is important and what's not important. But the danger of agenda setting is because then the media, okay, will always be biased towards the status quo. The media will be biased to those who owns them. Okay, so the media, like I said, in general, is very Western centric. Alright, although the media is owned by us, okay, it's a local media, most of the time our content, our format is dependent on the Western countries. So that's why we tend to focus on issues or news that's happening in that part of the world. Okay, and that's why we feel as if we're closer to the Westerners. Okay, we care more about Black Lives Matter, okay, rather than Palestinian Lives Matter. Can you understand what I'm saying? All right. So here, okay, reality. The reality is, Okay, for example, in Palestine, they have experienced this discrimination, okay, and they have experienced this systemic racism for almost a century. Okay, this is the reality. Okay, but of course, when we talk about the US, we have the Black Lives Matter. They too are experiencing that. Okay, they also, okay, what they are experiencing probably similar to what the Palestinians are experiencing. Okay, but why is it today that when we read the local newspapers or when we read the international newspapers and when we watch CNN or watch Al Jazeera, okay, what do we focus on? Okay, we tend to see only news on Black Lives Matter. We hardly see news about the Palestinians. Why? Because the media, through their agenda setting function, they select, okay, they choose which news to focus on. Okay, and when they choose to write about Black Lives Matter, they omit Palestinian issues. They omit stories about what is going on in Yemen. Can you understand? All right. And they select, that means they're priming. We already focus on the Black Lives Matter issues. And then they start to frame, okay, that means, okay, when they talk about these issues, they tell us, oh, there is a systemic racism, there is a problem in the US. Okay, so when we focus on that, then we only focus on the domestic issues of the US. Or US is discriminating the, what we call it, the African Americans. When we focus on that, we no longer focus, for example, with relation to the US, what we call it, foreign policies, in which they are very supportive of Israel, and they too, okay, they are very much, what we call it, responsible with what is going on in Palestine. But because all of these issues are not discussed by the media, okay, then Palestine is no longer part of our agenda. The Black Lives Matter becomes our agenda. So then I see a lot of young people, especially, okay, young Malays, young Chinese of Malaysia, okay, supporting the Black Lives Matters, what we call it, agenda. You start to hashtag in your social media. You start to black out your own, what we call it, Instagram. Okay, you support this agenda, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But as a Muslim, for example, there are bigger issues that are supposed to be more relevant to you that you don't think about. Okay, you don't see, okay, the Malay girls and boys, you know, to for example, okay, blackouting. Is there a word to blackouting their Instagram for the Palestinians? Okay, not many. Why? Because the issue, the Palestinian issue, no longer becomes the main agenda. And when the media sets our agenda, they too, okay, then manage to influence our perception of reality. Can you understand? The reality is, oh, racism, Black Lives Matter. Okay, this is relevant to our lives. Okay, to the Malays, to the local Malays, to the local Chinese. Their reality, their understanding of the world today, or the world revolves around this issue, this Black Lives Matter, that everybody must participate, that everybody must help defend the blacks in the US. Okay, but when we focus on that, like I said just now, okay, we tend to compromise other issues that probably, okay, are more relevant to us. Okay, can understand? All right.
Madam,
Yes.
Madam, I have a question. So, like we know, we have lots of media agencies. We have lots of brand. For example, in Malaysia, we have the Star, New Straits Time, Utusan, and etc. How can they all agree on the same topic to talk about? Is it because the more they focus on the controversial issue, the more people will read their newspaper, and that's how they make money, and thus that's why they focus on the same issue? I mean, it's like every news outlet is talking about the same thing. So how come they know what to focus about? So so I'm just wondering about that. Thank you, madam.
All right, very good question, right? Okay, today we have so many newspapers, so many news outlets. How come everybody talks about the same thing? All right, the point is, it goes back in relation to who owns the media. Okay, there are so many reasons. Okay, there are many reasons. For example, okay, we would say why in Malaysia, okay, we still focus on what is going on in the US and not what's going on in Palestine. Okay, our media is owned by local entrepreneurs. Okay, are owned by local governments, for example. Okay, but still, okay, when okay, most of the local media still, okay, get news from the international agencies. Okay, when it comes to international news especially, okay, all the media in the world, not only in Malaysia, will buy news from Reuters, from AP. So these are all Western news agencies that will only focus on issues that are relevant to them, that will help support their status quo. Can you understand? So that is why, okay, why? Because we don't have journalists, okay, local newspapers, they don't have journalists in Palestine. Okay, they don't have journalists all over the world. So usually what they do is they buy news from the news agencies. And this is also because the lack of awareness of local media, they don't feel the need or the desire, okay, to support or to go against, okay, the contemporary news or whatever news that is going on around the world. Okay, governments also. Sometimes even the governments do not like to talk about certain issues, okay, because they do not want to make, for example, US angry, okay? They do not want to make, okay, the status quo angry. So they will say to the newspapers, for example, okay, focus more on these issues and not focus on controversial issues that would get our country in trouble. Okay? Can you understand? Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
madam. Thank you.
But it's a good question. Yes, that's why, okay, today if we take the critical cultural approach, we say, okay, no matter how much news media we have today, we are still basically getting the same news. Okay. So the strength here of this theory, okay, is that it is very specific. It tells us how the media influence people. They talk about priming, agenda building, they talk about framing. Okay, so this theory also have specific methods. Okay, they tell us, okay, you can do content analysis and then you can do survey. Okay, but this theory is still quite weak in the sense that it has roots in mass society theory. That means, okay, if we take this theory, when we use agenda setting, we believe that the media has a significant power. Alright? So, but today some people argue, okay, that the power of agenda setting is probably less because now media are all not broadcast. Okay, we have different platforms of media and people are getting news not only via news agencies but via Facebook, via WhatsApp. Okay, so probably the agenda setting function of the media institutions are now put in question. Okay. All right, so far follow? Okay, so you can read the details of this. Okay, I'm just giving you in general. Okay. Now, you've already understood agenda setting. Let's talk about another theory. Okay, the media can sometimes lead certain issues into the spiral of silence. What does this mean, the spiral of silence? Okay, the idea that people holding views contrary to those dominant in the media are moved to keep those views to themselves for fear of rejection. This is only logic, okay? Sometimes it's only human for us to keep quiet when we think that what we believe or that our opinion is not popular. Okay? Spiral of silence. Isn't it true, right? Okay? If we usually, okay, if we disagree on things and if we feel that if we say something about it, okay, we're going to be criticized, okay, it's going to cause us problem, it's better that we just shut up and keep quiet. All right. So according to this theory, this is what the media is doing. Okay. Like we gave this, like the theory just now, agenda setting. Media tells us what to think about. Okay. So here, all of us, we're all talking about COVID-19. All right. COVID-19, and then we are very focused. We agree, okay, that the government is doing their best. Okay, that Malaysia is doing quite well. Okay. But what if someone starts to criticize, maybe like that Al Jazeera news coverage, okay? Maybe some people say, oh yes, alright, yes, Malaysia is doing very good, but, okay, but Malaysia is not treating the immigrants that well. This issue, okay, those who support the idea, okay, that Malaysia is not treating the immigrants well, okay, would be quite unpopular. What happens, okay, if you come out and then on television and you agree, okay, then you will probably will be criticized, okay, you will be viral on social media because people do not agree with you. So what happens? You would probably just keep quiet. Okay? Can you understand? So people through intuition, okay, awareness or through just experience know, okay, what the majority thinks. Okay, in Malaysia at the moment, okay, there is a high positive perception of the government's handling of the pandemic. Okay, in general, Malaysians are very happy, okay, because we have managed to control the situation. Okay, so we usually would conform with the majority. Okay, but if a person, okay, thinks, okay, if we believe that our opinions are agreed by other people, we would usually express more. Okay. On the other hand, people restrain themselves from telling it to others if they think the opinion of the majority is changing. Okay? This might lead to a change in their, okay, for example here, okay? When you watch that Al Jazeera documentary, okay, when you heard about news about how the immigrants is being treated, okay, you probably feel, it's true lah. You know, we're not treating this immigrant well, okay? Why are the government doing this? We probably agree with that opinion, perception. But because we know that perception is not going to be popular, okay, we tend to keep quiet. And what happens when we keep quiet? Okay, when we keep quiet and then we tend to continuously get the same ideas. Okay, your mother tells you, oh, Malaysia is doing great. Okay, when you read the newspapers, they tell you, oh, this is wrong. The immigrants are not treated badly. Okay, the immigrants are just telling lies, for example. So through time, okay, your own negative perception will change into positive because you will tend to agree with the majority. So you will spiral out to agree with the majority. Okay? Can you follow so far or not? All right? The spiral of silence. You know what's a spiral or not? Okay? The spiral is this. It goes like this. That means you probably have a negative impression, okay, of how the Malaysian government is treating the immigrants. Okay? But because you do not dare to express yourself, and you don't find other people who support your opinion, okay, you tend to keep quiet. And your own understanding, your own opinion will slowly diminish. Okay? Can you understand? Okay? So why, okay, sorry here. Okay, so why is it that the media can produce this spiral of silence? Okay, because media has ubiquity. Okay, these are the characteristics of the media. They are ubiquitous. That means they are everywhere. Okay, the media are virtually everywhere as sources of information. Okay, you cannot run away from it. So most people will get the same information. And most people will have the same opinion, same understanding of a particular issue because they got the content from the same sources. Can you follow? All right, so if you are in Malaysia, then all around you, okay, there will be positive news coverage about the government's handling of the pandemic. When you watch the TV, you listen to the radio, you read the newspaper, and most of the social media platform, okay, they give you the same thing, a positive, okay, coverage. Okay, and then when media is ubiquitous, okay, they can accumulate, okay, they can add on. Because the various news media tend to repeat stories and perspectives across their different individual programs or editions, across the different media themselves and across time. That means, okay, when you see the media, they give you the same content all the time, every time. And this somewhat, okay, helps influence the way you think. Can you follow so far? Accumulate, okay? When you watch TV, okay, when you watch, when you listen to the radio, you listen about the same thing. Okay, and then you tend to feel, oh, there is an agreement, because when I watch TV1, I watch TV2, I watch TV3, they all say the same thing. Okay, they all tell me that Malaysia is doing very, very well. Okay, so because of this, we all usually become part of the majority because we usually have the same views. Okay, when we have the same views, we tend to discriminate or criticize those who have views that are different from us. And as a result, those that are different will tend to keep quiet. And when they keep quiet, then all these what we call it, opposing news or opposing views do not get any attention. So it
Sorry,
will
madam.
fire into silence. Yes, Ahmad.
Isn't that what's basically happening around the world with the whole LGBT thing? No one is really speaking out against it, and basically everyone is just setting that agenda, and everyone's just accepting it.
Yes, very good. Of course. All right, like spiral of silence. Okay, why? Because we are so consumed with Western media content, okay, everywhere, because most of you and me, myself, okay, for example, we don't no longer watch local TV, we watch Netflix. And on Netflix, every single program is in support with the LGBT agenda. And when you watch Netflix and then you go on YouTube and all of those singers and celebrities that you follow, Taylor Swift, okay, Katy Perry, they all tell you, okay, they all sing songs that support the LGBT agenda. And then you find consonance because all of these sources tells you the same thing, that the world has changed, that we need to accept, okay, that love is universal. And because of this, okay, the rest of us, okay, the Muslims, for example, who are probably more, what we call it, traditional, okay, that tries to go against or tries to make comment, for example, okay, in the social media, they will get bashed, for example. Okay, they will get criticized. So in the end, those who goes against the agenda, okay, they will just keep quiet. And soon this agenda will become louder, bigger, more significant. Okay, voices that are against that agenda will become silenced. So yes, okay, Ahmad, that answers your questions. Okay, this is how, okay, unpopular views, okay, becomes silenced in the media, and it becomes silent in the world. Okay, can you follow? All right. It's because the media focuses on certain things and because they manage, right, to create such a big following. And you can see the spiral of silence in the social media. Okay, is it true? Does that happen in the social media?
But madam, I also have another question. Like for me personally, when I'm on Netflix, I start to notice all of these agendas that they're trying to push towards the viewer, like intensely, the LGBT, the atheism, whatever, all of these different agendas. It starts to become very apparent, and then we start to become conscious of it, and we start to actively um, block it. I think that would be the correct word. Yeah. So we start to actively block it. So wouldn't that also translate into other things as well? Like we see the agenda that's going on, and then we basically try to go against it if we're not accepting of it.
Okay. Yes, very good. Of course, audiences are active. Okay. Not everyone will be easily influenced. Okay. But the theory, for example, like agenda setting and spiral of silence, it talks about the effects on society in general. So when we talk about the effects in general, we can see that most people, okay, this is the argument here, that most people, okay, would agree with what the media says. Like you said just now, some people would be opposing, okay, they realize, oh, this is what's going on. Okay, but you can see also nowadays, okay, are there many people that's going on Netflix and say, okay, Netflix is wrong for me, I will not watch? Are there many people like that? Most people would just continue watching. Okay, statistics will tell us, for example, like in Muslim countries, the number of Netflix subscribers are going up, they don't go down. Okay, So this is the problem with this is the issue that this theory is trying to tell us. Okay, that probably people like you who find this agenda very prominent on Netflix and you try to oppose it, but you are the minority. Okay, that if you make comments about it, for example, on Netflix, Facebook, or when you criticize on the media, you would probably get criticized. Can you follow? Of course, there will always be people who are active audiences that don't really follow, but in general, okay, the media, okay, is able to spiral unpopular views into silence. Okay, like in the social media. Okay, in the social media, is there a spiral of silence in the social media? Okay, popular views and unpopular views. Okay, what happens, okay, if you go to for example, okay, Taylor Swift's Instagram account and you start to comment about her support of the LGBT agenda, what do you think will happen to you? What will happen to you?
Probably get hate. People will start
People
commenting.
will start commenting, they will probably stalk you, okay, they
Yeah.
will probably flag you as a racist or whatever lah. Okay, so all of that, would that silence you? Yes. Okay, you probably think, why go so much trouble, okay, to hold on to a particular view if you're going to get all of these problems and troubles. Okay, so the social media today, I think, is even more dangerous because social media is a populist media. Okay, most of us, okay, we are there to get the attention, okay, to be popular, whether you like to admit it or not. Okay, so the media, okay, the social media is always, okay, that's why sometimes social media is being called an echo chamber. Okay, an echo chamber, because, okay, only when we go to a particular site, it will attract people of the same mind, of the same opinions. And if you go there and you try to offer opinions that are different, you will not be accepted. Okay? All right, spiral of silence so far, can follow, understand? Okay, here. Okay, this theory was established by Elizabeth Noel Neumann. Okay, she's a German. Okay, so here, okay, when we talk about LGBT issues, for example, that is one issue. Okay, you get all this opinion expressed by the mass media. Netflix tells you this, YouTube. Okay, I'm not even talking about local media because nowadays the media are very much westernized and internationalized, right? Most of us choose to watch or consume content from Western media. Okay, so when we talk about the LGBT issues, okay, the mainstream media, okay, will be in support of it, isn't it? All right, most of the content that you get on Netflix, on YouTube, on whatever platform you are on, okay, so you have your interpersonal opinion because you're a Muslim, okay? You believe you're a traditional Muslim. Good. Nowadays I have to say traditional liberal, because some Muslims agree. Okay. So here, okay, you have your own opinions. Okay, you say, this is wrong, but the media all over, okay, will show you it's okay, and then many people will support the idea, okay, that they see on the media. So your own dissenting views will slowly spiral into silence. Can you follow here the logic here? Because you've commented once and then people start to bash you. Okay, and then you try to say again, this is wrong, this is against human, what we call it, biology. And then they come out and say you are wrong. So in the end, you become so tired that you just keep quiet. And some people, because of the bombardment of the dominant opinion, sometimes they tend to become agreeable to the dominant, what we call it, opinion. Can you understand? Because, yes, for example, okay, when you go on the social media, when you're watching Netflix, okay, you feel, okay, you're a Muslim, you don't agree. But then all of these views show you, oh, okay, that it's okay. And in that mainstream media also, you do not see dissenting voices. You do not see alternative opinions. And in the end, you start to think, oh, this is right. Because you don't get another opinion. Okay, can follow? Spiral,
Madam,
spiral of silence. Yes.
because this is actually a little bit strange. I definitely agree with the theory. What I find strange is that um, at one point the media was extremely anti-LGBT,
Yes.
and then suddenly it became extremely
Pro.
supportive of it.
Mhm.
Media was in control back then, and media is in control right now. So how in the world did it change from that situation to this situation, even though it's the same people controlling?
Okay, of course the media is dynamic. Okay, it depends also who is controlling the media. We're talking about how the Westerners are controlling the media. Okay, and we talk about, for example, in the 50s and 60s, even the Americans, they were quite conservative. Okay, so they were against the LGBT agenda. But the dynamics in the American society has also changed. Okay, they have become more liberal. So you have decision makers, you have leaders, although Trump is against it. Okay, but you have all these celebrities that are fighting for the LGBT agenda, and they too have the ability to influence the media. Can you understand? All right.
Yes,
There is even an extreme theory that's not scientific, but I'm just sharing here. Okay, it's not a scientific theory. Okay, it's just an extreme. Some people say conspiracy theory. Okay, conspiracy theory is not accepted. It's not empirical, but they say, oh, why is it the LGBT agenda is so prominent today? Because they say it is something that the white man wants. You get it? Because it's the white man culture. They tend to be more, to like, for example, to become more homosexuals. And because the white man is the status quo, the white man holds office, the white man has power, okay? The white man is able to bring this agenda and to normalize this agenda in all aspects of life, especially in the media. Because the white man has the money and the white man has the power. Can you understand? But like I said, that is just the conspiracy theory. Okay, in relation to what you asked just now, how come okay the agenda changed from being anti-LGBT to pro-LGBT? Okay, of course, okay, these agendas can change. Okay, but it changed together with the particular society, and it changed together with the status quo. Okay, all right. So here, what are the strengths? Okay, the strength is, it talks about okay how the media okay has the ability to shift or control people's opinion. Agenda setting just now also control our opinion. Okay, so it raises the important questions concerning the role of the media. Okay, but the weakness, okay, it's quite pessimistic of the media. This is what Ahmad says just now. Some of us are not that easily influenced, okay? And sometimes it ignores other simpler explanation of silencing. People just don't care. That's why they don't say anything, okay? And then it talks about, madam, okay, I don't understand how the consonants work. Okay, wait, come, go back here. Consonants, okay. First, okay, what are these characteristics of the media? Okay, here, okay, this theory says, okay, the media tends to give us the same view, same opinion about a particular issue, right? Why? Because the media is ubiquitous, it's everywhere, okay? The media is so part of our everyday life. So when we talk about, okay, in relation to the LGBT issue, okay, our everyday life is dependent on what? Okay, young people's life like yours probably, okay, it's Netflix, it's YouTube, it's on Twitter. This is everywhere. It is part of your everyday life. It's ubiquitous. Okay? So, okay, when you consume okay all these issues or media via YouTube, via Netflix, via Twitter, you get the same thing. Okay? It accumulates. They all talk about the LGBTs. All right, you see the rainbow flags, you see the rainbow whatever lah, okay, all of it, okay. So then it accumulates. Everywhere you see, okay, whatever media that you consume, they talk about it. And then, okay, they don't only talk about it once, they talk about it all the time. Okay, so that means you get to continuously consume the same content, the same idea. And not only, okay, the amount of issue, the amount of coverage is a lot, okay, you find consonance. That means, okay, you find a congruence or similarity held by the journalists. Okay, here we're not just saying journalists, by the media. For example, when you are on Twitter, okay, they talk about that, okay, they are in agreement with the LGBT agenda. When you watch Netflix and you see all of the series and all of the movies, okay, they too agree with the agenda. Okay, that means there is an agreement between YouTube, between Netflix, okay, YouTube and Twitter, and YouTube on television. Everybody, okay, not everybody, all of this media, okay, it seems that they are in congruence. They agree, okay, that this is the issue, and this is how you think about it. Okay, can you understand? Consonance, congruent. You know, congruent, they like match, a perfect match. Okay, YouTube, Twitter, Netflix, Instagram, Facebook, they all agree. Okay, they all use the rainbow platform. Okay, can you understand what we mean by consonance just now? Okay, thank you, Atira. All right. So here, spiral of silence. Okay. Now that is why, okay, we can see again, not just like LGBT issues, we talk about Palestinian issues or how the Muslim related issues do not get any attention. Because the world, the mainstream newspapers, okay, the news agencies, they talk about it. They only talk about, okay, they focus on Israel, for example, they focus on terrorist attacks. So what happens? Why are we being silenced? Why are our local media silenced? Because our local media, okay, do not like to go against the mainstream. Because our local media sometimes are just too lazy, okay, to write about the alternatives. Okay? All right. And follow. Okay? So we've already discussed two theories. Okay? One is the spiral of silence, another is agenda setting. Okay? So another theory that we will discuss today is news production research. Okay? So all of these theories are telling us how the media influence our opinion. Okay? The media sets our agenda, and the media tends to diminish opposition or opposing views. They only will highlight mainstream views, okay? And the media also, okay, because of the way they produce the news, okay, they tend to distort and be biased in their content. So this is what the theory tells us, okay? The study of how the institutional routines of news production inevitably produce distorted and biased content. Now, what does this mean? Okay, so this theory tells us, okay, why is it that the media focus on certain things or that the media are biased? Okay, the media are biased because they follow certain routines, okay, based on the way they produce the news. The problem is the way they produce the news. Okay, so the 4 ways in which current news production practices distort news content. Okay, now these are the so this theory argues these are the characteristics of news, okay, because the way the news are covered, okay, they tend to make news as personalized. Okay, when we talk about American politics, we talk about Trump, we talk about his hair, we talk about the way he speaks, we talk about how silly he is, but we don't really talk about the American policies. We don't talk about what he has done, okay, as the American president to the, for example, foreign policies. Why? Because we focus on the personal aspect of the news. Can you follow? So when we focus on the personal aspects of the news, again, we tend to compromise the significant or the main issues. Okay, when we talk about Malaysian politics, okay, we talk about Najib. Okay, what do we talk about? We don't talk about his policies. Okay, we don't really talk about the characteristics of his corruption charges. But what do we talk about? Mostly we talk about his wife. Isn't it true or not? Who is his wife? You know who his wife is?
Rosma.
Rosma. You also call Rosma like your friend. Datin Sri lah. Okay. So point here is what? Okay, people start to relate him to his wife, okay? And then when they cover the news, they talk about how big her ring was, how big her hair was, how big her handbag was. Okay? They don't talk about the issues. Can you understand? Because news tends to focus on personality. Okay? They don't tend to focus on the issues. Can you follow so far? All right. When we talk about, okay, for example, the royal wedding. Okay, royal wedding. Why do we care so much about what Kate Middleton or Meghan Markle? Why do we care about them? Basically, we should hate them generally because they were our colonials. Okay, but no, we tend to be very, what we call it, we admire them. Okay, we watch their live coverage of their weddings. Why? Because we focus on the personality. We see Meghan Markle. Oh, she was the actress who married the royalty. She was the first black person to get into, okay, the British royal family. We focus on the personal stories. Okay, we don't focus on why are we wasting our time on this royal wedding. Okay, why do people, for example, in the UK especially, okay, in the UK there are groups that criticize the royal weddings. You know why? Because they're using a lot of taxpayers' money. Okay, but majority of the Britons or the Brits, okay, they don't mind because they are already attracted to the personalized news. They want to watch the wedding. They want to look at her dress. They want to know about her personal life. Okay, they don't really question that their money is being used to pay for the wedding. Can you follow what I'm saying? Okay, so news, okay, tend to focus on things that are personal rather than things that are more significant. Okay, so in the end, then the royal family, for example, can continue to use the people's tax money, okay, to spend them on things that are not necessary. Why? Because the people don't criticize as much. Because people don't see it as an issue. Okay, and then they dramatize the news. Okay, how many? Okay, the other day when Kate Middleton married Prince William, okay, they had 1 billion viewers. Okay, from all over the world, including in Malaysia. Okay, some of us waited, okay, to watch the wedding. Okay, why do we even care? Okay, it doesn't even benefit us. Okay, and the royal wedding was 2-3 hours long. Kate Middleton got married, I can't remember, probably a few years back, or when Meghan Markle married Harry, probably 2 years back. Okay, so all of our local stations, CNN, okay, Ahmad didn't care about the wedding, which was good. All right. So what I'm saying is, how was it that a royal wedding managed to get 1 billion viewership? Because the news agencies gave a lot of attention to this wedding, although it doesn't really have news value, because the news have been personalized. We want to look at Kate's dress. We want to look at what Meghan wore or what he said. It's something that is personal. Okay, and then they dramatize the news. You know, how many of you did watch the royal wedding? Any of you watched it? Okay. So it was a long coverage, hours of coverage, okay, or you guys did not watch, okay, probably you were not interested, okay, which is good also, okay, but 1 billion people watch. You watch, right, Dayal? It was long. Why was it long? Because it followed the particular carriage, you know, the car that brought the carriage, the horses that brought the bride to the church. It was a 1 hour journey. Okay, and people waited for 1 hour to watch the carriage move. There was no value, news value, but they dramatized the news. How do they dramatize the news? Okay, probably they have a commentator, okay, Kate has entered the carriage, okay? So, okay, Noraina Shakira says, so madam, basically it fulfills what the audiences want. Okay, so this is the issue that is being raised by this theory. It's not really what the audiences want. It's really what the news are giving us. Okay, the news are giving us, okay, media companies are giving us news that are personalized, that are dramatized, but has no significance, okay, has no importance. Yes, creating a need that's not there. That's right, Abra. Okay, why do we really need to focus, spend 2-3 hours of our life watching this royal wedding? Okay, there are people dying in that 2 hours. Okay, why? Because the media focuses our attention on this. So it makes us feel as if we are interested to watch, okay, the royal wedding. If, for example, okay, we have options, okay, that the news, okay, only covered 10 minutes of the royal wedding, but covered 30 minutes of the particular human rights issues that's going on in Sudan, for example, then our attention will be focused on Sudan rather than this royal wedding. So it's not really what the audiences wants to see. It's really about what they are giving us. Can you follow? All right. So the news are personalized, the news are dramatized, okay? Like that wedding, they drama the news, okay? Okay, yes, all right. They give comments, okay? They talk about, okay, 1 hour just discussing her dress. Oh, the dress looks very simple. The dress looks really nice. And then we sit down, 1 billion viewers sat down, okay, and spend 2 hours of their lives listening about commentaries on the wedding only. Can you follow? Okay. And what happens also, okay, news today tends to be fragmented. Fragmented means, okay, it would only focus on a certain aspect but does not relate the particular news to other aspects. Okay, if in relation to the wedding, like I said just now, okay, it costs millions of pounds, okay, money from the taxpayers. But these issues were not being covered, okay. The news was fragmented. They only focused on the fashion aspect. They only focused on the brides. They only focused on other things, okay, but not to see the issue in a bigger, what we call it, not to see the issue in a bigger aspect. Okay, like they say, doesn't give you the whole helicopter view. They only give you the views from the forest. You know how the saying is, right? A helicopter view of a forest will show you the forest as a whole. But when you are in the forest, you only see one particular area of the forest. So if we consider this, then the news are fragmented because they only give you a certain aspect of the news. Okay, in relation to that wedding just now, okay, it only focus on the wedding. It doesn't focus on, for example, the taxpayers, or it doesn't focus on the issues that this is really, again, an issue of imperialism. Okay, why is it the Malays or the Indians or everyone in the world are watching live telecast of the British royals wedding when it has no significance to our life? Okay, can you follow? And then what happens when things become fragmented, okay, focus, we don't question. Okay, we don't question, okay, why are we watching this royal wedding? We don't question why they are using our money. We don't question why, okay, that these royals are still, okay, having power over us. We don't question. Okay, and in the end, this become normalized. Okay, it's normal to just watch weddings. Okay, it's normal to focus, okay, because if it's a British royal wedding, you want to watch. But if it's for example an Indian royal wedding, there's no Indian royal, for example, if there's a Danish royal wedding, you don't really want to watch. Why? Because the ideas, okay, the ideals that we get, okay, from the British media, okay, it has become normalized. We want to see the Western wedding. Okay, Can you follow? So these are the way news cover. Okay, they tend to be more personalized, they like to dramatize, okay? Okay, and then they tend to be fragmented. That means they didn't give you an overview. Okay, and then and when they show this kind of news every day, all the time, okay, it becomes normalized. Can follow so far? Okay. So all of this, okay, the ways the news cover is also in relation to the objectivity rituals. Because news media claims that they want to be objective. Okay, so in news production research, the term for professional practices designed to ensure objectivity that are implicitly biased towards support of the status quo. Okay, sometimes, most of the time, newspaper tends to claim that they are objective. That's why they don't question a lot. That's why they don't take sides. Unfortunately, when news production tends to be objective, okay, they usually end up supporting the status quo. Okay, objectivity rituals. Okay, they're just going to cover, when they cover about Palestine, they're going to cover about Israel. Okay, they say we must give 50% news here, 50% news there. Unfortunately, when that happens, all right, you don't really give the clear picture. Okay, you don't give the real picture just because you claim that you need to be objective. Can you understand here, objectivity ritual? That when news journalists write a certain issue, sometimes they are too careful. Okay, they don't want to step on people's toes, for example. Okay, they don't want to make certain party angry. But when they are too objective, they don't question. Okay, they don't put their foot forward, they don't take a stand. Okay, can you follow so far? All right. Yes, politically correct. That's right also. Okay. For example, okay, in Malaysia, okay, when we talk about again LGBT issues, especially in the English newspaper, not the Malay newspapers, okay, they will try to be politically correct. Okay, they will say, for example, oh, we need, okay, the LGBT has the right also. They may be wrong, but they have a right also. That means they just want to be portrayed as being objective. But by being objective, they are actually being biased towards the status quo. Because they don't criticize and they don't take a stand. Okay, can you follow? So this theory, okay, is related to can be related to agenda setting. Okay, because this is how, okay, news can set the agenda. Okay, this is how, for example, politicians, okay, set the electorate's agendas because they focus on the personality. Okay, when during the Malaysian election, for example, they focus on Najib's personality. They focus on Sadiq's personality. Okay, and they focus on the personality instead of the issue. Okay, so far can follow? Okay, how it relates to agenda setting. Okay, very good, Aziz. Right? So what is the strength here? Okay, the strength, okay, it tells us, okay, how news, okay, the way they produce news is already influencing the news that they share to us. Okay, that the way news is produced, okay, is biased, and the way that news is produced most of the time is in support of the status quo. Okay. But of course, okay, what are the weaknesses? Okay, it is pessimistic of the journalists. Sometimes journalists do take a stand. Okay, sometimes not all newspapers are what we call it biased all the time. Okay, so here journalists do not accept this theory because they say, okay, this is not how they do it. Okay, so some argue that this theory needs to be updated. Okay, because the social media is changing the way news are being covered. Okay. Because here, when we use these characteristics, it really relates more to traditional media coverage. Okay, but nowadays with the internet, usually there's no longer any news format. Journalists today, or even citizen journalists, are just writing what they want. And usually citizen journalists are not objective. They are very biased to their own opinions. Okay. All right, I think we stop here because we've already discussed a couple of theories. Like I said, I will continue in the next class. Okay, we will finish this. But again, all of these theories, okay, I will not go into detail because, okay, it's just to introduce you to the different types of theories, okay, that address how media affects society. Later on, if you want to adopt these theories in your own research, of course, you have to do more readings, okay? But what you need to know in general is how the theories function, what the theories talk about, and how do they explain the relationship, okay? We've talked about agenda setting, spiral of silence, and news production research, okay? That's 3, okay? There are more after this. All right. Any questions? Okay, everybody all right? Everybody can understand? No questions. All right, very good. I hope it's clear. Okay, good. Don't forget, okay, that you have your quiz on Wednesday still at 1 p.m. All right, so only 2 chapters. All right, so that's it. The format of the quiz will still be the same. It will be still on Google Form via Google Classroom. Okay? Oh, tidak. Oh, here. Okay? Alright, if there's no question, okay, we end the class today with tasbih kafara and wal'as, okay? Some of you who did not get, okay, if you couldn't really understand, you can watch the video later on. Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalam.
Thank you, madam.
Welcome.